Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. For today's video, we wanted to give everyone a quick update on the lockout. And interestingly enough, we don't have all negative news. We're going to be mostly talking about the playoff format. Now, most times when we've talked about the lockout, it's been like, oh, man, it's hopeless, or oh, they're so far apart, stuff like that. So that's still true, but we're not going to talk about that as much today because a new playoff format was agreed upon, and I think it's pretty cool. It's going to look similar to the 60-game season, which, I mean, for Padre fans, that was awesome because the wild card series was one of the best series that was the best series of baseball I'd seen in my life up to that point. We saw we saw an epic comeback, and then the final game of that 3-game series where the Padres won 1-0. So you look at how this is going to look at like it's going to be a little bit similar. It's going to be like the NFL in terms of you have 7 teams. The top seed only gets a bye. So one team gets a bye, whoever's the best team in the conference. The other 6 teams will play in a 3-game series, and then the next 2 rounds will be 5 and 7 game series, 5 and 7 game series, similar to how they were prior. But the one thing that I think is a little bit weird is that the 2 other division winners get to actually pick their wild card opponents, and then the final 2 wild card teams will just end up playing each other. I think it's weird that they get to pick their opponents. I also do think it's kind of cool because this got brought up about the NBA when they were like deciding what they're going to do with the play-in. Because if you pick your opponent and you lose to them, it's going to get really, really bad on social media for those teams that do that. So I actually like it, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that just think it's kind of random. I think once it's kind of weird, but once it starts happening, I think it's going to be really, really fun because if you want to go on Twitter and just clown other teams, it's going to be very, very easy to do after this 3-game series. So I think that's going to be something that's going to be really exciting about it. But what do you guys think about the new format?
You guys know who would have made the playoffs if this was a playoff format last year? Not the Padres. Yeah, it would have been I think the Reds and the Phillies,
right?
The Reds and the Phillies, I think. Yeah, I like it only because it gives me a chance to actually watch playoff baseball again. I've seen it once for the Padres. Haven't seen it. I mean, I never saw it before. Never saw it. I didn't see it last year when I really thought we were going to make it last year. So that's why I really like it. Gives us a chance to actually watch Fernando for longer than we're supposed to. But I think it's a fun idea. Like at first, you kind of brought me onto it, man. I think it's actually kind of cool now that you get to pick your opponents because of that aspect that you're gonna have fans on social media like, oh man, like we should play this team, we should play this team. It's gonna start a lot of speculation, a lot of conversation, a lot of stuff like that. And I think that's fun in itself. Because at first I was like, no, it's kind of dumb that they get to pick their opponent. They should just go by seed. But being able to pick your opponent, that does sound really fun. And if you lose, yikes, you can't lose to the opponent that you picked. I think that also makes it a lot of fun, especially for us Padre fans. Let's say the Dodgers picked us and we won. That'd be the sweetest thing in my life of sports. But yeah, I think it's cool. I just think the 3-game series for the wild card might be a little much. I mean, we kind of saw that pitching started to deteriorate, especially for the Dodgers. And I mean, I don't feel sorry, but their pitching started to kind of started to like deteriorate down the road. And it's like, you don't want to, it's already not this year, but it's already in a 162 game season, adding more games. It's kind of difficult. I think it should stay the same. Like each of these teams play 1 game against each other and then you go 5-7-7. I think that's how it should be. But either way, it's still fun. I think it's going to be really, really cool. You're going to be able to see, I mean, for everybody gets a better chance to see their team play some playoff baseball and go win a title. And if you can make the argument, oh, it's not real because, each team has a better chance to make the World Series. Well, it's fair for everybody. So that's all right. I think it'll be fun.
See, the only thing I'm mixed about is picking your opponents because it would be the most Padres thing ever is if they are the 2nd division winner. They're the 2nd seed, right? They pick either the 8 or 7 seed because, you know what, we figure this is going to be easy. We've had a good track record against them, and then we get swept. That would be the most Padres thing to do in existence, and I feel like that would happen as soon as this is implemented. So that's the only reason I'm like, yeah, you know what? I like this idea. I like it a lot. It gives like the underdog, it lights a fire under them. You know, if they can go all the way, if they get that out of their way. And, you know, it brings a good story to baseball. And that's kind of what baseball needs. It needs good stories. And I remember someone saying, in order to have a great postseason, someone needs to be the villain. And sometimes, you know what, the guy who is picking another team to be their opponent, they're going to be the villain. And guess what? It's going to bring stories in. So I like it. Uh, just don't want the Padres picking because I feel like that's bad luck to them. But I disagree with you on the wild card. I think it should definitely be a 3-game series. We saw it with the Cardinals. I mean, if that was a 1-game series, we would have been bounced like immediately. We had no pitching. Paddock went out there and was probably the worst Paddock we've ever seen in our lifetimes. Yeah, so like it created entertainment. It was a very entertaining series. It was a very close series. Sure, we didn't have the pitching, but we saw one of the greatest bullpen games in Padres history in that 1-0 victory in the 3rd game. And it was fun to watch. I feel like when you create a little series for a wild card, yeah, sure, it's not all riding on one game anymore, but I feel like having a little bit more of a series, it creates more entertainment. Who's going to take the 2nd game? Are they going to get swept? Oh, then you go to the 3rd game where everything rides on it. You're relying on your 3rd best pitcher now. May not be as fun as watching 2 aces battle, but watching the offenses try to outscore each other, I think that's even better, in my opinion. So I like it. I like it a lot. You want to go into the other things that were discussed regarding the minor leaguers, Matt?
Yeah, you want to go into it a little bit? You had him up, right?
Yes, I did. So after the MLB was proposed to the Players Association that they're not going to, the MLB does not want to pay the minor leaguers that are invited to spring training for their time at spring training at all. They get $1,500 in meal tickets, and that is the only thing they get paid while they're there in spring training. And the MLB says they don't want to change this. But Players Association said, no, look, if they're going to go there in spring training and take time out of their training regimens and everything to go to spring training to get seen, to actually work on their skills with coaches and everything, they need to get paid for their time. The MLB disagrees. So they disagree on that front. And then after they said this, the MLB was like, look, what if we just cut hundreds of minor leaguers out of each system? Basically, they just wanted to eliminate more minor league jobs and just kind of thin out the herd and the MILB. So doesn't look good. The minor league systems, you know, I know there's some things you can change. You can definitely pay them more. They definitely deserve more money than $12,000 a year. You read the comments, you read the stories that the minor leaguers have before they get called up. It's not a great way to live, you know. The one that came up on Twitter recently, there was a guy, he was, I think, in his 4th or 5th year in his minor leagues. He was like a 2 or 3-time all-star there, making $12,000. He was renting out a 2-bedroom apartment with 7 other people, or 6 other people, and no one was sleeping on mattresses. It was all air mattresses, 2 in each room, 2 in the living room, 1 in the kitchen. And he even knew some minor leaguers that were homeless. So, you know, just cutting minor leaguers doesn't get rid of the problem. You still need to pay them more. You need to pay them for spring training. These guys are your employees. You're supposed to treat them properly.
One thing that I find so weird about it is that they say that they're having them as they're training, like they're workers in training. But every job I've ever had when I've been in training, I have been paid for my training. I don't. If anyone listening has been like had a job where they didn't get paid for their training, please let me know. But I have never heard of that. Like I've never heard of people doing work and then just not getting paid. Like it just seems very strange. I know that I think the MLB is having like a lawsuit filed against them basically for not for malpractice in the workforce because of some of the things that you just brought up, Chase, including like the spring training stuff where they're just like not getting paid. It's pretty rough though. I mean, and I get that people say like, look, you gotta work hard, you gotta get to your spot, like it's part of the come up of the league. But living in that's extreme poverty pretty much if you're living in a 2-bedroom place with 7 other people. Like that's like living in a third world country if you have no money and that's where all your money is going to is paying this rent. Like that's there's a difference with like, all right, this guy's making a little bit just to make ends meet. No, they're not making ends meet because they can't even have a room or even have a roommate. They have to have 4 roommates in a tiny little place where they're sleeping on the ground, basically on an air mattress. Like that's a lot different. So another thing is what this does is this makes it so much less likely that the top athletes in the world want to play baseball. And I don't think that gets brought up enough about this. If you're a football player or a football and a baseball player, it makes a lot more sense to go play football for a college, a D1 college, and get treated like a king on campus and then get drafted into the NFL. You're going to have a much better time. And even if you don't, even if you don't make it until you're 25, I think Joe Burrow didn't get called up or didn't get drafted and didn't play until he was like 25, right? It happens to a lot of players. It's still worth it because your quality of life is so much better for that time. Where if a minor leaguer comes in, he's 18 to 25, he's in the minor league for 7 years, he's going to be living a rough life. So it's pretty sad, but hopefully it gets worked out, and gotta have some support for the minor leaguers. I know us 3 do. But Isaac, anything else you want to add before we take off?
Yeah, for the crowd that talks about football and baseball and thinks, why don't they play baseball? Don't they make more in baseball? Well, yeah, if you're really good. I think it's a lot easier to be really good in like not trying to offend any football players or anything. I think it's a lot easier to be really good in football than it is to be really good at baseball. I just think that, of course, I'm gonna think the sport's harder, but so other than that, though, like you look at some of the top contracts in football right now, because Matt was bringing up the 2-sport athletes. You could be a third string quarterback making more than probably a whole minor league team. You could be what? You could probably be an undrafted free agent or on the practice squad making more than a bunch of these guys, possibly even the whole team again. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, you're right. 2-sport athletes are not going to want to play baseball if the grind, if they don't think the grind to get to the major leagues is worth it. Because let's be real, like the money's not worth it. You get paid. I saw some dude got paid like 12 grand in a year. That's like $1,000 a month. What are you gonna do with $1,000 a month? Like that's not, you're not able to live off that. So, it's really unfortunate what the league does for the minor league players. Like it's okay to put an emphasis on your pro system, but I mean these guys are potentially going to be in your pro system. Like you want to treat them right. And I don't know what specific organizations, if it's every single one or what it is, but it definitely needs to be fixed for sure.
Dude, if you make 110,000, you're making a starting lineup. That's ridiculous. That's insane. And that's not counting signing bonuses. But like, not everyone gets a signing bonus. So that's the other thing. But that was pretty crazy stuff. Chase, anything else you had like on lockout stuff that you wanted to add, or was that it? I mean, I know that was like the main points that were brought up. Isaac, yeah.
One more thing, I just got the update. So the league has till February. Well, the Players Association and the league, they have till February 28th to come to an agreement. If they don't come to an agreement by that time, it's probably not going to start on time. But the new year, the new year will not start on time. So opening day won't start on time. So we have till the 28th. So we can only hope and pray that they come to an agreement so the season starts on time.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. That's 11 days from now. And the way they meet every 5 days. They meet for about 15 minutes. The MLB gives an offer that the Players Association's like, wow, that's really far off from where we're at. You're not even close to meeting in the middle. We'll do this again in 5 days. Manfred's going to come out in about probably, I'm going to give it a week, because last time, next Thursday, maybe next Friday, he's going to come out, say, you know what, we're going to have a deal done. Season's going to start on time. Yeah, spring training got delayed. I'm sorry about that. I thought we were going to have a deal on, but you know what? Tired of lowballing the Players Association. But you know what? This time we're going to make a real deal, and it's not going to happen again because they're going to wait until Saturday, the day before that agreement is supposed to be in place. Players Association is going to deny it again, and then you know what? It's just going to continue further because the two sides are not close at all.
Dude, I forgot. I don't think we brought this up, but I don't think we talked about when Manfred just came out and said something that was one of the craziest things I've ever heard like any executive of a sport say. He said that owning a baseball team isn't a profitable business. Do you guys remember when he said that? What? Like, because he's just been lying the whole time. Like, he just like blatantly lying. But that one, I was like, no way. Like, I had to go like look at him. Like, no way he said that. That's crazy. Yeah, he's him saying that the season's gonna start on time. It's like, well, it's like 11 days, a few days. Like, no, there's not a chance. You still have to go through free agency. There's so many aspects that need to be done. I feel like right now, I think if you have a season of triple digits, I think you're going to be doing pretty good. And I think it's likely. I feel like if it gets worked out, like 120 games is hopeful. Now we'll see. Like let's see what it looks like in a few weeks. Is it still the same thing? Is it not going to happen? I know a lot of people are kind of giving up faith. I don't think it'll happen just because there's so much money in a baseball season, and the reality is you cutting even half the season isn't that big of a deal, which is kind of crazy, but that's what happens when you have a 162 game season. So hopefully it gets done. I hope that we see as close to 162 as we can. However, it does not seem very likely that we're going to see a full season. But with all that said, thank you all for listening, and let us know what you think about the playoff format and maybe any other aspects of the lockout stuff that we didn't bring up or that we did bring up and your thoughts on it. But yeah, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.